From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, good Sunday morning to you. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 3rd, 2021. Starting the new year here on a good note this morning for some of you. We're going to have some snow, some frozen precipitation in between, and then some rain further south. I'm going to get into that system here a little bit in this video because I want to describe what's going to happen the rest of the day. And normally this is a 5 to 6 week long range lead video that I discuss the hows and whys of what's going forward. I will do both, but I wanted to get into that system in this that's going to be affecting the region today is part of this video as well, because some of you are wondering what's going on, and it's not exactly clear on the weather alerts page exactly what's happening. So sometimes those are missed. Some people don't read the information. I understand that, but we'll get into that in the video here too. We're start off like we normally do here with the long range. This is from yesterday. We did this a day late because of the holiday, and so this is pretty fresh. And everything still here on the outlook from yesterday. Outlook chart is remaining the same. Okay, so there's no changes here. But what you're noticing, you're going to have a slightly above average period here for the most part going forward through about the 17th, 18th or thereabout, and then we get to near average for a couple days. Then we start turning colder. And this is the period where we feel the pattern change is going to take effect. Now, everybody's been hearing about the stratospheric warming and all the big pattern changes coming to winter. Yes, but you're going to have to take that with a grain of salt and have some patience with it. It's not going to be an immediate change. There's some lag effects that I'll show you here in the video of why we're going to be targeting this period, which is really late January and then all of February. And if you look at our projections for the month of January as a whole for snowfall, we have about near average snowfall, and that's going to come it's going to be different for each region we're talking about. The interior can get a little bit more than average. Further south and east, not so much. Okay, it's going to take a little bit of time, and once this change occurs, more of the region are going to get into these snow events, not just these areas that are northwest of I-95. Okay, when we say interior, that's the fall line that's northwest of I-95. So that's what we're dealing with today. I think we're going to be dealing with over the next week or two here, and then once we get into this change here period, I think more of the area is going to be involved in some snow events. So just going to have some patience if you live along I-95 and point southeast. I do think the change is coming. It's just going to take a little bit. We have a couple winter storm signals here listed between the 9th and 12th. Those are our next signals beyond today. But again, those are going to be favoring the interior, not necessarily going to be limited to the interior, but favoring, probabilistically speaking, favoring the interior on both of those because the pattern doesn't really change just yet. And we get into February here, we have slightly below average temperatures for the month as a whole, and above to well above average snowfall. I think February is going to be our winter month as far as snowfall is concerned. So, getting to the storm signal thing, I'm going to keep bringing this up every week because people seem to not understand this. I don't understand that. This doesn't seem complicated to me, but for some people it is, and I'll give you that it's just due because the storm signal does not guarantee that you're going to get hit with a major winter storm. This system that's hitting today was actually a storm signal we had for a couple of weeks. It hit. Some areas are getting accumulating snow. It's not a huge storm, but it's still a storm nevertheless, and you're still getting some accumulating snow in parts of our region. So that is the important thing to take away from these storm signals. When you see storm signal lists, don't jump up and down and say, oh, that means a blizzard's coming. No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. We got, with that mid-month system that we had in December, around the 16th or so 16th into the 17th, and we had that nor'easter there. I mean, we had that pegged for a very long time, and that was a big signal. Sometimes signals are bigger than others. Some are bigger than others, okay? So just keep that in mind, and no storm signal guarantees a direct hit from a storm or winter storm. They can still miss. So far, we've been doing pretty good with the storm signals this year, but it doesn't mean it's always going to be that way, okay? Here's what average snowfall is. This is updated now for January and February snow, and this is for our major climo stations across the region. So January snow is definitely up from what we, as far as normal snow, what you can expect each month. These have gone up considerably from December to January, and they're going to continue to go up to February. So we're expecting a well above average snowfall in a month that already sees the most snow climatologically of any month out of the year. So February, we're pretty confident it's going to be a pretty snowy month. Okay, if you're planning on one of those people that hate snow and we're thinking about, hey, wait, when do I take my vacation? February probably would be a good month. Just saying. Okay, here is the U.S. seasonal, Eastern U.S. seasonal snowfalls month. Actually, this is through the 27th. Unfortunately, this is kept very well by the National Weather Service Eastern Regional Office. And they only do this about once a week, though, so I don't have the updated information, or it hasn't been updated yet. This seems to always be done the day after, like the Monday after I do my video here, so I always have the week prior. But you get the idea here of where we have snowfall year to date, and this is through the 27th of December. We really didn't get much other than what's going on today. Really didn't get much since then anyway, so these are pretty close to the totals here. So here is looking at our picking out any cities or towns within our region here. We have Williamsport. This is really one storm here, 24.9 inches, and it's well above average. This is where you should be through December 27th, and it's, obviously much higher than that. You got a couple, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, 16.3. You should be at 9 so far. So we're on an above average pace everywhere. Allentown, 13 inches. I can tell you from this morning already, I already had 1.3 inches of snow from that little snow burst this morning, expecting another 1 to 2 inches later today. So this is going to continue to add to this. Okay, same thing up in some of these other areas like Wilkes-Barre, Williamsport. These are going to add. We're going to add to that today, and maybe a few other times between the 9th and 12th period that I mentioned. But you see, what 13 is what they were through the 27th of December, and at 4.9 is all the average snowfall is typically to that point. So everywhere we're ahead here across our region. Newark, a foot versus just under 5 inches. Philadelphia, 6.6 versus 3, which is normal. So you have these areas already starting off above average. We're going to add nickel and dime stuff here up until we get to that pattern change point, and then we're going to turn it on. And I don't have any doubts we're going to finish the season above average snowfall. Okay, this is the opposite of what all or most winter outlooks projected, where it was going to be a repeat of 2019, where we had like a couple inches of snow, in some cases less than an inch of snow. Like down in Philadelphia had 0.3 last year. They expected a repeat this year with a warm and virtually snowless winter. Yeah, how's that working out? Stay away from the winter outlooks. They're just not good. You can't predict things like this, like sudden stratospheric warming events that I'll get into in a second. You just can't. And that changes the ball game entirely. Here's our January 3rd, 4th signal that we had listed. Again, we had the upper level energy and this low down here. We were just keeping an eye on it at this point. It wasn't showing a hit. It is hitting today. And this is what to expect for the rest of today. This is starting off a loop here with that burst that came through this morning. You're going to get a considerable break in here of about 4 to 6 hours. Then you're going to have another batch come in. It would start off as sleet on the front end, even all the way up in northeast PA, but then it's going to go over to snow. And you can see those fringe areas here along I-78 where the northern parts just north of 78 are mixed to snow. Okay, and south of 78, you got a extended area of mix there, maybe going over to rain. So it's a very fine line. So this is the farther in the interior here. I-78 seems to be the marker for this. And you can see, I'll put this in motion one more time. There's that burst this morning that came through. And then this is as far as our map is concerned, for all intents and purposes, it's for this event here. Now, why didn't we have that included this morning? Why was it snowing this morning? We didn't expect it to snow. The models last night, for the most part, said that the precipitation coming through this morning, that the initial burst that we're having this morning, oh, by the way, this goes to about late evening or near midnight tonight before it shuts off. This initial burst that came through, it had as lighter precipitation rates. So with that being said, with lighter rates, you should have sleet and or freezing rain and then rain further south. Since it was heavier, it was allowed the column to cool. And because that column was cooled, it turned over to snow, and some pretty heavy snow for about 60 to 90 minutes. And we got many areas, inch and a half of snow out of that, okay, in the up by the Lehigh Valley and a little bit south of there too. I mean, we had some decent accumulations out of that from that initial burst. So that was not included as part of this map. And I did update this map this morning. We had a 4 to 6 area up here. While I do think some areas in the higher peaks here could exceed 4 inches in a few spots, I think the most realistic for this majority of the area, since we're doing a map that's covering 4 states, it's hard to get detailed down to like a certain point here. I think the more realistic amounts are going to be 2 to 4 up in this medium blue. We're looking at 1 to, and again, this is in addition to what's already occurred today. This is a 1 to 2 inch range in here in the northern part, north of 78, and in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Just south of 78, you get you get this mixing, and then you can get a coating to 1 inch also. This is probably just mixing when this comes in later and mixed to rain, and then we're just primarily rain further south in Area F. So this is our updated map as of this morning. And we don't do the first call, final call stuff. If we see things change, it's going to change. I'm not going to put up things up there that are unrealistic expectations, like that 4 to 6 area we had up there yesterday. And in fairness to the forecasters, there were some guidance that were suggesting that. I was not on yesterday, so we really didn't get a lot of universal input there. But it looks like we're going to have more realistically 2 to 4 inches. 2 inches in the lower elevations, 4 in the higher. Again, you could get locally higher up in these regions here, but it's going to be some of those highest mount peaks above 1,500 feet. So this is what we're looking at coming in for later today. Again, that comes in early to mid-afternoon, west to east for the second round. You're going to have a lull in between. Temperatures are going to slowly rise, even those areas you had snow this morning in the meantime. So it's going to start off as sleet and further south rain, and then it goes over to snow in these areas. Any mixed precipitation goes over to snow rather quickly up here. Might take a little bit longer near a 78. Okay, so that's what we're expecting for today. Now going forward, here's the temperature periods going forward. You see there's a lot of this just kind of hanging just very slightly above average. Normal here, I'm using Allentown here. 36 is the average high right now, so you're just barely slightly above average. This is marginal enough that if you get some of these storms in here, especially in this 9th to 12th window, or like 38, 39, 40, 41, you can still get snow in that temperature. I mean, it's going to be marginal. You're going to have these mixed stuff here, mixed/snow stuff, like we're doing today. But you can still get snow in this when temperatures are like this. And, and once we get to the end of the period here, again, we're expecting a pattern change around the end of the third week of January. You see it start to go down a little bit here and right at the tail end here. So at that point, then we start going to see more consistently colder temperatures and then more snow events rather than this mixed stuff. Now, if you're in Philadelphia, these temperatures are not going to cut it. Okay, these are too warm. So this is probably rain for the majority. I'm not saying you can't get snow here, especially if something perfectly timed in here. But, I mean, most of these are too far above freezing to really entertain the snow idea here for the most part. Not impossible, but a lesser chance here. And the same thing can be said all the way up to about Newark and New York City. Anywhere along I-95, Southeast PA, Central New Jersey, still not cold enough just yet. But at these interior locations, and if I showed you, up by Wilkes-Barre Screen, it would be even colder than this. Your chances go up there, okay? So that's what we're dealing with over the next couple of weeks. Now, we're talking about the stratospheric heights, and everybody, the big talk has been about this big sudden stratospheric warming. Well, this is going to happen, okay? And you get intense warming in the stratosphere. Now, we live in the troposphere where all the weather occurs. You get up there, way up there, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 feet, is the stratosphere, and you get this intense warming episode over the polar regions that forces the polar vortex, forces the cold air away from the polar regions down to the mid-latitudes, away from the poles. So this is what gives you your pattern change. Everything you know about La Nina and typical La Nina, or even El Nino, any of that stuff, you can throw that right out the window. Because when one of these occurs, it changes your pattern completely. And this pattern locks in for usually around 45 days. It can be anywhere from 30 to 60 days. So it's going to stick around for a while. It's going to create some blocking. We have blocking right now, but it's going to maintain that for a while. So you can have some big storm threats here going into February. This is why we were confident going into an above to well above average snowfall projection for the month of February, because down the line, this is going to help us, okay? And this is occurring. This is not something like dream scenario here that the models are trying to figure out. This is day 10 and where it's expected to be. This is where it is right now. And you have intense warming that's occurring over eastern Siberia. And this is observed. We can look at soundings, actual observed soundings, to see that intense warming. So this is not like a fantasy range stuff that the models are trying to concoct here. This is really happening, okay? So this is going to occur. This is going to slide eastward and end up over the North Pole and then end up displacing that cold air to the mid-latitudes. That's what the process is. Now here is what we're looking at when you have a colder stratosphere, when you have the polar vortex that's sitting over top of the poles. You have strong westerly winds, and you stay kind of mild over the United States, okay? A zonal flow, kind of like we have now. It's a zonal flow. It's not impossible to get snow, but it's harder, okay? Less cold stratosphere, when you have any kind of split or disruption of the stratosphere from a warming episode, these winds still westerly, but they are much weaker. Okay, and then you get these cold and snow episodes coming to Europe and the eastern United States. Okay, now what we're heading for here is a major mid-warming event. okay? So that means we might see a complete zonal wind reversal up at this level. So instead of seeing this, where you have westerly winds, they're actually going to turn easterly because of this major mid-warming event. So this is an impressive event, very similar to 2010. I mean, it's been a while that we've had something like this. So this is quite impressive. And that means we're going to have some pretty good cold and snowy events here, it looks like, going through, if not late this month, but then at least, for the very least, the month of February. And it probably lasts a while. And if history is an indicator, you look back at some of these years here that did really well, like 2010, where we had a complete zonal wind reversal, 1999, you have 2009 in here. They happen at different times, but you're heading here. We're heading in that direction, okay? So this is going to be a major event, and it's going to affect our pattern intraseasonally for about 45 days or so. So we'll see how long that lasts. We'll get down to that, narrow that down when we get a little bit closer to that period, once we see this all take place and see how long it's going to last. I think it's going to end up lasting through the month of February, maybe into early March as well, okay, where you have this cold and snowy pattern. Here is the reason why we're not, in the meantime, even though we have that really good blocking right now, why we're not getting really good temperatures, really cold temperatures just yet. You have a very strong Pacific jet extension that goes all the way across the Pacific for reasons mentioned in the last video. Very strong high over Mongolia, eastern Russia, led to this flow off the Himalayas. It was very fast. And you're going to get that, but it's going to relax toward the end of the period here once we get out in time. It's going to allow some amplification to come back into the jet and give the western U.S. a bit of ridging. And it's going to get our temperatures much colder once we get past, again, probably the end of the third week of January, or start of the fourth week, we start getting colder there and have more snow chances starting to creep up. And not just for the interior, but for other areas that are not getting snow right now or not expecting to get snow over the next couple of weeks. Another thing that's happening here, this is looking at the convection across the equatorial Pacific. And if you look, actually going into the Indian Ocean, and that's where the best convection is right now. This is a phase 2-3 signal right now, where the best convection is right in this region. Eventually, with time, we feel that this convection is going to move eastward as part of this poleward heat flux that's involved with the sudden stratospheric warming. So if it gets out here near the international date line, in between here and here, we'll be in the ball game here for some really active weather. So I don't expect this to hang out in here too long. Okay, it's going to move eastward. It's going to be a gradual process, and again, it's going to take 2-3 weeks to get out here. Until we get out here. That's why, again, we don't see that change. Pacific Jet's one of them. Not enjoying oscillation, the best convection, is another reason. All right, so it's not an immediate thing. You're going to have to just have some patience because it is coming, but it's going to take some time to get here. Here's a look at those storm signals now. If I move this forward. Before mid-month storm signals, we had one here on the 9th. That's this one here shown on the GFS. Again, this is might not exactly transpire like this, but this is one signal here. And then we have one toward the end of the period that's going to come in and bring another chance for wintry weather. Uncertain exactly the track of this and who benefits and what, but again, probabilistically speaking, it's going to favor the interior. Here comes number 2. Okay, and this is around the 12th, 13th time frame. This is the second signal. Look what it does. It brings more snow, and then it does some goofy stuff here with rain, and I don't know what it's doing. But this is the GFS. It's further out. It gets a little confused sometimes. But the idea there is there are 2 more signals in our identified period that we're going to have to watch closely. And they could be marginal systems just like we are now. As a matter of fact, I expect them to be. All right. Once we get past that pattern change period, which I, again, expect to be the end of the 3rd week of January or start of the 4th week of January, we see a more consistent change. We'll get some more snow in those marginal areas than we currently see. Okay, so we're likely heading into a warmer period for at least the first 3 weeks of January, and it's not going to be incredibly warm, but it's going to be slightly warmer than average. Okay, normal high again, like I showed in Allentown, is 36. We're talking about 40-ish. I mean, that's not higher, a lot higher, and it's marginal, but you're still technically warmer than average. So I'd expect that for the first 3 weeks of January, and snow chances are going to have to take a perfect timing, have perfect timing, and take a perfect track. That is going to be true, especially for these interior locations. We're monitoring the stratosphere for the sudden stratospheric warming effects and how it changes our sensible weather and when. Again, we're targeting late 3rd week of January, early 4th week of January for those effects to be realized here at the surface. And then snow chances in January have the highest chance probability at the end of the month into February. That includes more of the region and not just the interior. Prior to that, of course, we have storm signals that will benefit the interior, okay? Maybe not in a big way, I'm not saying that, but the highest chance probability for more of the area to get involved, not just interior, is going to be the end of this month and then through the entire month of February. So that's our edition of Weather Weeklies for this Sunday, January 3rd. If you do not have the forum subscription renewed, I know a lot of you are going to come up for renewal here in this month. Make sure you check on that so you can continue following our storm threats going forward. I did want to mention that because we have a ton of premium forum subscriptions that come due in January, and it's basically because of some storms that happened several years ago. You guys have renewed every single year. Just make sure your stuff is current so you can continue getting that up-to-date information. We do the long-range outlooks. We update in the forum every Monday and Wednesday, and then we do these model analysis well ahead of any storm threats that we get, including a first-release snow map. You don't have to have any ads. I know people are complaining about ads on the website. Folks, it's how we make money. I mean, it's one of the ways. We have many ways to make money. That's one of the key areas we make money from. So if you want the free stuff, there's going to have ads on it. If you don't, and you want to get the advanced information, go for the premium forum. And also the text alerts if you haven't had those already. But join us again next week. I will have updated information on hopefully our storm signals will come to fruition that time. We'll see take a look at any other signals that pop up in the meantime and give you the latest status on the set of stratospheric warming and how that's going to affect our region going forward at that time. So join us again next Sunday for that. That'll be Sunday, January 10th. And we'll see you again at that time. Take care.